All right, ready to dive deep into some seriously ancient wisdom.
Oh, I'm ready.
Today, we're tackling the book of Genesis, specifically that famous creation story.
Classic.
We're using this fascinating YouTube video as our main source.
Okay.
It's called The Creation Story, the book of Genesis, Biblical Stories Explained.
Right.
And it's from the Grace Digital Network.
Sounds interesting.
So we're going to break down the narrative.
Okay.
Try to figure out those deeper layers of meaning.
Love that.
And see what we can learn from it today.
Timeless stuff.
We'll be talking about light and darkness. The whole 7 days of creation thing.
Okay.
Even touch on some leadership insights from the story.
Oh, wow. I'm fascinated by how these stories passed down, like forever, still feel relevant today.
Right.
Touching on these fundamental questions about why we're here and, like our whole relationship with the world around us.
It's wild. And you know what really got me?
What's that?
That very first sentence in the Hebrew text of Genesis 1.
Okay.
It's got 7 words.
7 words?
Mirroring the 7 days of creation.
Oh, wow.
That can't be just a coincidence?
No way. It's definitely intentional.
Right.
It points to this structure and order in the whole creation narrative. This story was likely passed down orally long before it was written down.
Right.
So using a structure like this with those numerical parallels would make it easier to remember and retell.
Oh, that's a good point.
Like a built-in mnemonic device.
I love that.
It's baked right into the text.
That makes total sense. And the video points out how that structure also emphasizes this idea of completeness and perfection.
Oh, interesting.
7, biblically speaking, often represents that wholeness or completion.
Yeah.
It's like the author is really hammering home this perfect order and harmony in God's creation.
Yeah, I see that.
It's all very intentional.
Exactly. And it reinforces that idea of the Sabbath.
Oh, yeah.
The day of rest.
Okay.
The 7th day. Mirroring the 7th word.
Yeah.
It's when God rests after, all that creation work.
Right. He's setting a pattern for us.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's break down the actual creation process.
Yeah, let's do it.
Genesis 1 lays out those 6 days.
6 days.
Light, then the sky.
Okay.
Land.
Yeah.
Stars. Sea creatures and birds.
Gotcha.
Then land animals.
Yeah.
And finally, humans.
Us.
And each day, God looks at his creation.
Right.
And declares it good.
Good.
This repetition of, and God saw that it was good. Really emphasizes the intentionality of creation.
Yeah.
And the goodness built into it.
It's a powerful statement against the idea that the physical world is somehow bad or corrupt.
Absolutely.
From the get-go.
Okay, but here's where things get super interesting for me.
What's that?
The creation of light as the very first act is huge.
Okay.
It's like setting the whole stage.
Right.
And right away, we have this separating of light from darkness.
Yeah.
So what's going on there? What's the deeper meaning?
Well, light and darkness are big symbols in the Bible, not just Genesis. Light is often linked to knowledge, truth, and the presence of God, while darkness represents ignorance, falsehood, and the absence of God.
Interesting.
You could even connect this to spiritual enlightenment,
a
kind of new creation within a person's soul, moving from that darkness into light.
Makes sense.
And remember, in the New Testament, John calls Jesus the light of the world.
Wow, you're blowing my mind with all these connections. It's amazing how one simple act of creation can have so many layers.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a fractal. The closer you look, the more complexity you see.
And it's cool how that theme of separation continues.
Separation.
Yeah, distinguishing one thing from another. It's all over the creation account.
Okay.
God separates the waters above from the waters below the land from the sea, and so on.
Yeah.
Bringing order from chaos. Defining boundaries.
Okay.
Establishing categories.
Yeah, I see that.
It's all very deliberate.
And then, of course, the grand finale.
Here we come.
Humans.
Ta-da!
Made in God's image.
Which is huge.
UGE.
What does that even mean?
I know, right?
It feels so significant, but I don't think I fully get it.
I'm with you there.
It's one of those, deeply profound and debated concepts in theology.
Yeah.
What does it mean to be made in the image of God?
Right.
It's not just about looking like him.
No, definitely not.
It's more about our capacity for things like reason, creativity, love, moral conscience.
Okay.
Those qualities set us apart from everything else in creation.
Right.
And suggest a special relationship with the divine.
I like that.
You know what I mean?
It's about our inherent dignity and worth.
Absolutely.
Just because we're made in the Creator's likeness.
Yeah.
The video even mentioned how revolutionary this idea was back then.
Oh, yeah.
Back in the ancient world, rulers were often seen as divine.
Oh, right.
But Genesis is like, nope, every person has inherent value.
Interesting.
Not just the elite.
It's like the foundation of human rights.
Exactly. It's a radical concept for the time.
Really is.
Challenging hierarchies.
Yeah.
Affirming equality.
Powerful stuff.
And with that comes huge responsibility.
Oh, for sure.
If we're made in the image of God, then we're called to reflect his character in the world.
Act justly.
Yeah.
Love mercy. Walk humbly.
Right.
You know.
Which brings us to another point.
Okay.
The video talks about that dual command given to humanity to be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah.
But also to rule over the earth.
This part always gets me.
Me too.
Rule over.
Yeah.
Does that mean we can just do whatever we want with the planet?
I know, right? It feels kind of tricky.
It's a question that's been debated forever.
For sure.
Especially as we face all these environmental issues. What does it really mean to have dominion over the earth?
Yeah.
The Hebrew word translated as rule could also mean something like stewardship or caretaking.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's not about like domination or exploitation.
Right.
It's about responsible, loving oversight.
Okay, so more like we're entrusted with this gift.
Exactly.
This planet, this life.
Yeah.
It makes you really think about the responsibility that comes with it.
It does.
We have to use it wisely.
Yeah, but what does that actually look like in today's world?
Right.
With all the complexity we face?
What does responsible stewardship actually mean in the 21st century?
Big questions.
Big questions. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's move on to the Garden of Eden.
All right.
The creation of Eve. And that whole tempting tree situation.
Sounds good. This is where things get really personal.
Yeah.
Exploring those complexities of human relationships and the consequences of our choices.
Sure.
That Garden of Eden described in Genesis 2. It's not just a pretty setting.
Right.
It's this powerful symbol of paradise.
Okay.
Like a place of total abundance and harmony where humans lived in perfect relationship with God.
Right.
And all of creation.
Yeah, like the ultimate dream home.
Exactly.
Lush gardens, flowing rivers, delicious fruit everywhere.
The good life.
What more could you ask for?
It represents that state of, like, innocence and purity before sin and suffering entered the world.
Right.
But it's also a place of testing.
Testing.
Yeah, where humans are given free will and faced with this huge choice.
And that choice comes down to that forbidden tree, right?
Exactly.
The tree of the knowledge of good and evil.
Yeah.
What's the deal with that tree?
Well, on one level, it represents the limits of human knowledge.
Okay.
God set a boundary, a line humans weren't supposed to cross.
Right, right.
But it also represents that allure of forbidden knowledge.
That makes sense.
The desire to be like God, to decide good and evil for ourselves.
That age-old temptation.
Yeah.
Wanting to know more. Pushing those boundaries. Even if it means breaking the rules.
And of course, the serpent.
Oh yeah, sneaky snake.
He's often associated with deception and cunning.
Makes sense.
He plays a key role in that temptation. You know, in a lot of ancient cultures, snakes were seen as symbols of wisdom or knowledge.
Interesting.
But also of danger and temptation.
That duality.
It's fascinating.
It's wild how the serpent twists God's words.
I know, right?
Planting those seeds of doubt in Eve's mind.
So subtle.
Really highlights the power of language.
Absolutely.
How it can be used to manipulate and deceive.
Oh, for sure.
It's scary how easily it can happen.
The serpent doesn't outright lie.
Right.
He just kind of reframes the truth.
Yeah.
Makes it sound appealing.
So clever.
He plays on Eve's curiosity, her desire for knowledge.
And sadly, both she and Adam fall for it.
They do.
Leading to the fall.
It's a pivotal moment.
And those consequences are instant.
And harsh.
Shame, guilt, fear, expulsion from the garden.
It's all right there in Genesis 3.16 and 3.22-24.
Heartbreaking stuff.
It really is.
This loss of innocence.
Yeah.
Separation from God. And paradise lost.
But even in that judgment, we see God's mercy.
Okay.
He doesn't just abandon Adam and Eve.
Right.
He clothes them.
He does.
Recognizing their shame and vulnerability.
It's a powerful image.
And he gives them a glimmer of hope.
A glimmer of hope.
Yeah. The promise of a future redeemer.
Oh, wow.
Who will defeat evil.
It's like that thread of hope runs through the whole story.
I think so.
Even in the darkest moments.
It's a reminder that God's love and grace are always there.
Even when we mess up big time.
Absolutely. So Kind of switching gears a bit here.
Okay.
What are your thoughts on those leadership lessons the video pulls out from Genesis?
Oh, yeah. Those were interesting.
5 key observations.
Right.
I think they offer a fascinating perspective on leadership.
Both in biblical times and today.
Yeah. It was kind of a jump from the Garden of Eden.
It was a bit.
But those lessons stuck with me.
Me too.
First off, the idea that humans were made in God's image to lead.
Yeah.
It's like leadership is built into us.
In our DNA.
Exactly.
It's not just a job title. It's part of being human.
Right. Like it's our calling.
And it suggests that leadership isn't really about power or authority, but about reflecting God's character in how we guide and influence others.
So serving others.
Yeah, inspiring them.
Helping them reach their full potential.
Exactly. Not bossing people around, but helping them thrive.
I love that.
And then the video points out that dominion was given to both men and women.
Oh, yeah, that's important.
Leadership isn't gender specific.
Nope.
Both genders have equal capacity for it.
Which was a pretty radical idea back then.
It was.
It challenges those traditional hierarchies.
For sure.
Calls for a more inclusive view of leadership.
The creation story shows that both men and women are made in God's image. And both are called to exercise dominion and stewardship.
It's a shared responsibility.
Okay. The third point is a little more cautionary.
Okay, what's that?
We're meant to rule over the earth, not over each other.
Right.
It's a reminder that true leadership is about service.
Not domination.
Not using our power for personal gain.
Yeah, that's a message we need to hear today.
So sure.
With so many leaders focused on power and control.
More than serving the common good.
It's a problem.
The Genesis story reminds us that real leadership is about humility, compassion,
and respect for everyone,
It's
for
like-
the dignity of all people.
So well said.
What about that fourth observation?
Yeah, serving one another in our areas of gifting and purpose.
Right.
Such a beautiful image.
It is.
A diverse community working together.
Yeah.
Each person contributing their talents for the benefit of everyone.
It's leadership that values collaboration.
Diversity.
Okay.
Recognizing that we all have something unique to offer.
It's not about competition.
No.
It's about working together.
To create something bigger than ourselves.
It reminds me of that passage in Corinthians.
Which one?
About the body of Christ.
Oh, yeah.
Where each part has a function,
Right.
but all the parts are essential.
We need each other.
Exactly.
And finally, the video talks about how our leadership is best used in our area of giftedness.
So focusing on our strengths.
Exactly.
Discovering our passions. And leading from those places where we feel most alive, most effective.
That sweet spot where our talents and passions meet the world's needs.
And when we lead from that place, we're not just effective.
Right.
We're fulfilled.
And joyful.
It's a win-win.
Absolutely. These leadership lessons from Genesis are timeless.
They really are.
And so relevant for today.
They challenge us to think about leadership in a new way.
Not just about power.
But as a calling to serve.
To steward and empower others.
It's a beautiful vision of leadership.
It really is.
Something we can all aspire to.
Even if we don't have, like, official leadership position.
Exactly. It's about how we live our lives.
Right.
Reflecting those values of service, compassion.
And stewardship.
Speaking of stewardship.
Okay.
Let's circle back to that for a minute.
Yeah, the video talked about the environmental stuff.
The implications of the creation story.
But I feel like there's more to explore there.
Oh, for sure.
It's a huge topic.
Yeah.
That deserves a much deeper dive.
The Genesis narrative, with its emphasis on humanity's role as caretakers of creation, offers a powerful framework for how we think about our responsibility to the environment.
Exactly. So before we wrap up, let's talk about that a bit more.
I'm game.
What does responsible stewardship actually look like today?
Right.
In a world with all these environmental challenges.
Climate change.
Yeah.
Pollution. Deforestation.
The list goes on.
How can we honor that ancient call to care for creation in a way that actually makes a difference in the 21st century?
That's the question. Yeah, it feels like we're just scratching the surface here.
I know. Right?
There's so much to unpack.
It's like I said, that's the beauty of these ancient texts.
So much depth.
Layers and layers of meaning.
Okay, but let's try to answer that question.
Okay.
What does it really mean to be a responsible steward of the earth today?
In the 21st century.
We're dealing with climate change, pollution, deforestation, and I mean...
The list goes on.
It feels overwhelming.
But it's a huge challenge.
Right.
But I think the Genesis story gives us some good guidance.
Okay, I'm listening.
It reminds us we're not here to just use up the earth.
Okay.
For our own benefit.
Not just exploit it.
Exactly.
We're supposed to care for it. Nurture it.
Make sure it's healthy for future generations.
Like gardeners tending a garden.
Exactly.
Okay. I like that analogy.
It's about recognizing that connection.
Connection.
Yeah, between all living things.
Okay.
Understanding that what we do, it affects everything.
The whole web of life.
The whole thing.
So how do we actually do that?
Yeah, good question.
What does that look like day to day?
Well, I think it starts with awareness.
Awareness of
the issues.
Okay.
Learning about the environmental challenges.
Right.
Understanding how our choices have an impact. Being willing to change our lifestyle.
So like reducing our carbon footprint.
Yeah, exactly.
Serving water. Choosing sustainable products.
All those things.
That sounds like a lot.
It is.
But it's important.
It's crucial.
And it's not just about individual actions, right?
Right.
It's also about like pushing for bigger change.
Systemic change.
Yeah, supporting policies that protect the environment.
Absolutely.
Holding corporations accountable.
Yes. Making sure they're doing their part.
Investing in renewable energy.
All of that.
So stewardship is both personal and political.
I think so.
It's about making those changes in our own lives.
Yeah.
But also working towards a more just and sustainable world for everybody.
That's the goal.
Recognizing that we're all connected.
We are.
Part of this big, complex web of life.
And our actions have consequences.
Yeah, they ripple outwards.
Affecting more than just ourselves.
We're not just consumers.
Right.
We're citizens of the earth.
We have a responsibility to take care of it.
It's a powerful call to action.
It is.
And it's wild to think that this ancient text,
thousands of years old,
is still so relevant.
It blows my mind.
Speaks to the problems we face today.
It's a testament to the wisdom in these stories.
I'm with you there.
And how they help us understand ourselves.
Yeah.
Our place in the world.
I gotta say.
Yeah.
This deep dive into the Genesis creation story has been eye-opening.
It's been great talking about it.
It's given me a whole new way of looking at it.
That's what we like to hear.
And I definitely have a lot to think about.
It's a lot to process.
The video doesn't even mention this.
Okay.
But it just hit me.
What's that?
The creation story also brings up questions about...
About what?
Our relationship with technology.
Oh, interesting.
We're getting so good at manipulating nature.
Right.
Even creating new life forms.
That's true.
Does that power come with responsibility?
That's the question.
How do we make sure we're using technology in a way that aligns with those principles of stewardship and care for creation?
Wow, that's a big one.
It's something I'm going to be thinking about for a while.
I think we all should be.
So, to everyone listening out there, we'll leave you with that question.
To ponder.
How can we, as individuals and as a global community, use the power of technology?
All this amazing technology.
But still be good stewards of this planet?
Beautiful planet.
It's a question that needs our attention.
Our careful thought.
And our action.
We need to act.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the Genesis creation story.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope you've come away with some new insights.
Fresh perspectives.
And maybe a renewed sense of wonder at this complex world.
This amazing world.
And our place in it.
Until next time.
Keep exploring.
Keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.